Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Teach series. My name is Candace Waggoner, volunteer coordinator with Voices for Children Advocacy Center, where we serve as a voice and as an advocate for children and their families who've been abused and neglected in our community. Today, we're going to talk about what the center does, what services we have, and how you can be a part of ending abuse and neglect in our community. Let's get started.
Go ahead and introduce yourself, Candace.
Okay, my name is Candace Waggoner. I'm the volunteer coordinator at Voices for Children Advocacy Center. We are the Child Advocacy Center in Flint, and we also have a center in Shiawassee County, so we serve both communities. I moved from Macomb County to Genesee, and in 2017 I took this position with the center. We are serving foster youth, but I'm really training the community to get involved with the work that we're doing with abused and neglected children and families in the community, and ensuring that you can be a part of their healing process.
What exactly is a forensic interview?
So a forensic interview is when there's been a call to CPS and they need to investigate. The investigator will set up an interview with our forensic interviewers, and they'll sit with the child. It's only one interviewer and one child ever in a room together, and law enforcement will come, other CPS workers will listen so they can talk with each other, but they really get a chance to sit down and tell their story of what happened, what abuse occurred, and then that information is recorded at our center so it can be used for criminal follow-up afterwards with law enforcement. Yeah.
How long does a forensic interview usually take?
An interview can take up to an hour. It can be shorter, longer, depending on the child, what information needs to be shared, what happened. If there's a lot of details, it may take longer. If there's more than one child involved,
Do you guys ever find that children aren't always quick to speak about what happened? Do they want to keep it quiet? Or?
Many times the children will disclose at the center. Yeah, we really try to make it friendly. When you walk in the door, you're greeted by a friendly face. We have family hosts who volunteer their time to work with the center, and we have a family room where they can sit and wait. We get them a snack and drink, really make them feel at home. And so our forensic interview gets to ask them a few questions about themselves, and then the child then feels comfortable. We let them know it's being recorded, and then the information is being shared, and recorded, and no, oftentimes they're disclosing. So, yeah.
You mentioned the term CASA, court-appointed special advocate?
Yes.
Right, okay. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more, like what that is?
Yeah, so our CASA volunteers, it stands for Court Appointed Special Advocate. They go through 30 hours of training, and they can be anybody from any walk of life. They can be a stay-at-home mom, a full-time employee, somebody who's in college, out of college, no school experience at all. And they go through a 30-hour training, and in that training they learn about working with foster youth, writing court reports, substance abuse, a lot of the things that the families who come to our center are facing, domestic violence, some of the issues that brought them into care. And so once they complete training, they're sworn in with a circuit court family judge, and they're assigned to a case. So they work one-on-one with a foster youth in our community to identify needs that are not being met so that they don't get lost in the foster care system.
Okay. So what are some long-term effects that children who have been through all of this have?
Yeah, so oftentimes we're advocating for counseling services, infant mental health for our little ones who maybe were so young when the trauma was happening within their home and they didn't have the words or the language to say what was happening. And so that's a big one. We're always advocating for counseling services. Another thing that we're seeing in our foster youth is some behavioral issues because they don't always have that language, even if they're older, because it was so traumatic. You can't put that into words all the time. And so you're seeing children internalizing or externalizing their behaviors, whether it be aggression or depression, shutting down. So, yeah.
What exactly does it mean to internalize or externalize a behavior?
So internalizing might look like shutting down, dissociating. We've seen some youth where it looks like they're just watching, a TV screen, blank stares. Externalizing might be more physical, more aggression coming out. We've had some children yelling, hitting, some things that need behavioral modification therapy or intervention. Yeah.
You mentioned some risk factors. What exactly is a risk factor? What are some common ones that are seen?
Yeah. So some risk factors of abuse and neglect are the age of the child, if the parents grew up within a home of abuse and neglect themselves, social isolation, and so we know that during quarantine and the stay safe, stay home order, a lot of children and families were at risk for abuse and neglect. It was needed for a safety issue, but then it's creating maybe another issue because some of our children don't feel safe within their own home.
What are some common misconceptions or stigmas about child abuse or abuse in general? You guys notice?
That it can only happen to certain children or in certain areas. We know that child abuse can happen anywhere, in churches, in schools, in hospitals, in group care, home care settings. It doesn't discriminate. We know it's 100% preventable though, and so that's why we are doing the work that we are to stop it.
What do you mean by 100% preventable?
That child abuse doesn't need to happen. We can prevent it, absolutely, by making people aware of what it is and how to avoid it, how to stop it. It doesn't need to happen to children, so, yeah.
Did you guys notice an increase in cases or
Yeah.
showing those risk factors?
Yeah, absolutely, we did. And we were doing Zoom forensic interviews for a while before we were able to come back to the center. We were trying to prioritize, high needs versus, if it's a human trafficking case or sexual abuse, that's something you need to hear right away. Other cases, it was tricky, but you had to prioritize that. But yes, we've seen a rise. Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
We know that mandated reporters, a lot of the calls going to CPS are from school staff. And so because of that shutdown and the delay in starting in person this year, that some of those calls were not being made and children's voices were being silenced within the walls of their home. And so, but now we're seeing an uptick of calls, and we're expecting a lot more this fall when school does resume. Thank you all for joining us today to learn a little bit more about how you can help us end abuse and neglect. If you've liked anything and want to learn more, please follow us on social media at Voices for CAC on Facebook and Instagram. You can also find us on our website at voicesforcac.org. As always, like if you learned something, and please make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future interviews. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.